Hello and welcome to the Merri-Cast, the show that puts you on the fast track to business confidence. I'm so happy that my guest today is Surbhi Dedhia. She's the founder of Digital Genie and jotmybio.com. Her entrepreneurial journey is all about adapting to change. She's gone from high-powered in-house marketeer in corporate life to entrepreneurial marketing guru for many businesses. And she's had to do all of this at a time when her family had been moving lock, stock and barrel to another part of the world, with a big change in culture to get used to. Had she imagined, I asked her, these entrepreneurial challenges when she was a global marketing director just a few years earlier? This is what she said.
That part is actually the most interesting part of my career story because, as I said, when I went into a corporate role, it was just following the course. You get a degree, you go to get a job, and then you just follow the course, what happens in the corporate, climbing the corporate ladder, so as to say. What happened with the entrepreneurial journey is not something that I really aspired to do, or even kind of had a plan that, okay, so many years down the line, like after having so much experience, I'm going to do something on my own. We moved countries as a family. So we moved from Southeast Asia, from Singapore to current location, UAE in Dubai. And when I moved here, there was just so many balls to juggle, really, because young family, new location, getting sorted to settle. So in the meantime, just because I had the previous role, I had been as a global marketing director. So I had a lot of connections around in this region as well. And they knew I was here. So slowly the coffee conversations turned into, hey, this is this little project. Would you like to take it up? And would you like to be like an extra arm on our marketing team? And so slowly I took projects with my previous clients, and then it became into like a full-time gig because I started enjoying it. I started the flexibility, the way to decide, like the opportunity, the freedom to decide and to plan. So a lot of my corporate experience now started to come in handy because, as a global director, I had to decide on a lot of things. And now that decision-making was like really at the micro level of like, onboarding clients and other areas that entrepreneurship faces. So it was pretty accidental. And because it was accidental, there were a lot of hop, skip, jumps that came along the way. And I would love to share that with your audience. That is an integral part of confidence building as well, I feel.
This word accidental resonates with me quite a lot. So, I mean, you're sitting there, you said you had to relocate and there's, you had your family and so on. I mean, so were you thinking, what kind of job could I do that would fit in with this? Well, actually, it's only if I'm self-employed that I have that flexibility, that I have that freedom. Was it that sort of process?
Oh, no. It was not that process at all. I came here to the new country thinking that I'm just going to get on to some other organization and I will continue my career path as into digital marketing. That was the idea. The only reason that I was not aggressively, picking up jobs that were on the table was because I just needed some time to settle everything, because we came in a very short notice and, the family was young. So we had to kind of figure out the schools, the travel, and this country as against where we came from is very different in terms of transportation and daily life. So I had to just settle that. So I gave myself literally 2 months to say that, okay, look, we'll just come here, settle, and then I'll take up a job, whatever. And I was already interviewing, by the way, with other companies. And then in the meantime, in 2 weeks, I was unpacked and I was like twiddling my thumbs thinking, now this is not happening right? Like I need to creatively spend my time somewhere. And that's where, my connects from the previous jobs, I got in touch with them, coffee conversations became more constructive. And then one project led to another project.
Was there a point then that you thought, actually, accidental or not, I am now an entrepreneur? And was there a sort of conscious moment of realization? Was there a particular moment you thought, oh, actually, that's me?
Yeah, so it came quite naturally to me to work as a consultant, for those projects. And because I had this multi-geography, multiple industry experience, it kind of helped me a lot to understand. And frankly, it was a win-win because while I had worked in the Middle East, but it was from Southeast Asia, like geographically, I was like always very far from the ground reality. So whatever the past projects were successful, yes, but they were not from ground up. It was always from like far away, observing and then figuring it out or relying on local partners. Now, this accidental entrepreneurship gave me the opportunity to really be on the ground, roll up my sleeves, talk to different people. And Middle East or Dubai is a very, very culturally diverse place. Like you really find people from all 193 countries, 97 countries now, I don't know, from the world. So it's like a very culturally diverse place. So it really helped me to kind of understand. And then there was a very interesting point because I think 2 years of me being here, there was taxation in government VAT introduced, value-added tax introduced for the companies. And when they employ any such person to be a consultant on board, they have to produce invoices and, they have to be audited basically. And that resulted in me like literally having to put a thought process and plan in place and thinking that, I have to have a company name, I have to have a brand name, I have to have a website, I have to have all the legal stuff. So, the other big part that was playing here was that we were transferred here by the company only for 2 years. So I was not going to be permanent here. So, having to think all that through. And so I decided to, open a company in Singapore. And for entrepreneurs, Singapore is a great place because you can literally open your company name, have a bank account and everything, from being away from the country as well. So it was all very easy and a smooth process for me. And then I had to just produce get into the formalities now to, produce an invoice with a brand name and all of that. So that's the story behind it. So at no point I was like, now this really seems to be me and I'm going to continue. It kind of was very organic, slow. And over a period of time, I kind of found my feet.
Were there sort of particular breakthrough moments, if you like, in terms of developing your business where you thought, well, it could be like a client win or something that you delivered really well, where it sort of gave you the encouragement and the confidence to know that you were prospering?
Yes, very, very much. In fact, my initial projects, initial couple of work that I did kind of helped me to be this on-demand CMO of sorts for a couple of small and medium-sized businesses here. And because I had this from a top to bottom perspective, and I had grown into digital marketing, doing different roles, I could really roll up my sleeves and be what they wanted to be at that point, or like step back and say, hey team, you go do work and tell me at the end of the quarter, where are we? So I was able to kind of flex myself that way, and it really helped them. And in terms of breakthrough moments, there were the change of perspective, right? Like for many small and medium businesses, they don't think marketing first. They think as marketing as a cost center. So this whole shift, like when you deliver something and it works, I could see that the business owners or the entrepreneurs were like, this seems to work. We get it, right? Like, so that kind of literally clicked that, okay, look, whatever I'm working on or delivering to them is giving them results. So that was like, for me as well. Because when you're in a corporate, and especially my situation was in a B2B. So the sales cycles are pretty long, like 18 months, sometimes even more. So when you're working on campaigns and stuff, it's like, it's one campaign after another. So it's not like really on a very niche area. You're like looking at so many different things at so many different times. And each campaign is probably at a different level of success or different level of conversion. So it was not really breakthrough. Yeah, it was successful. Yes, it was like, okay, we are in the budget. Okay, we are able to get the impact. Yes, but it is as a team, and it's a very different kind of success measurement. But when you're working as an individual and when you're able to kind of see that turnaround in thinking, the turnaround in the confidence to spend more money on marketing, that kind of, and the trust, the ability to get that trust from them I was like, oh, wow, this is another kind of a joy,
One question I'm sort of been dying to ask you actually is that, you're obviously in that whole area of marketing and digital marketing and so on. When you were actually marketing your own business, did you learn lessons about what you had maybe previously said when you were working more in sort of corporate life? I'd just be really interested to know when you have to do things, yourself in
On
the
your
area that
own.
you've been talking to. I mean, how did
Oh
that
my
come across?
God.
Did you learn
This
stuff
is
from that?
such, yeah,
Yeah.
this is such a fantastic question because, when I was in the corporate situation, I was always working for a brand, right? And then and always think, I mean, luckily I had this whole team around me, like who would do like graphics and communications and SEO and all the different things. And because you have that entire vision of the entire landscape of marketing and what it takes to get it to run and deliver, you understand that it's going to take so much effort. Now, when you are as an individual, so what happened when I became an entrepreneur? Firstly, for the first 2 years, I really didn't have it. I was just a consultant, a freelancer of sorts, right? So I didn't have any website or any brand name or anything. And everybody just knew me as my name, Surbhi Dedhia, a consultant. And the work kept coming through referrals and through retainers. So that was like a very ongoing thing, which I didn't pay really big attention to because at the back of my mind, it still had not settled in me that I can do this on my own, and long term. So I was still looking for like jobs, still, kind of in that limbo of sorts. Now, after getting that brand name, like when I first designed the logo and when all of that hit me, I'm like, ooh, now I know what the owners go through, right?
Yes.
Like, and I would be the one who's this. So luckily, I think because you're from, so it's like a doctor solving his own pain, right? Like the same thing happened to me. So if I would advise the businesses or owners that, hey, you need like a brand guide and you need like a logo and a website which actually addresses to your target audience and stuff. Now, this part, I didn't need to convince myself because I knew this is the path, right? Like the very first day when I hired somebody to do a logo, I also paid that person for brand guide, like because I didn't cut corners there and I knew that the value of brand guide is long term. But then for the longest period of time, I didn't have a website. I just had a printed business card, but there was no website, right? So, and the reason was I just wanted to make it right. I just wanted to have the content right. And, I was so stuck in that hamster wheel of getting it right, one day getting it right. I realized that was lesson number one, that you will never have it right. You have to just have it. And then it's like a living asset where you keep on developing it over a period of time. Because as a business also, before, as I took the path of entrepreneurship, I would do anything and anything for anybody and everybody, right? Like, so I did not have like a focused target audience that I want to go after. I did not have like, these are the 2-3 activities that I can be the best for you for, right? Like I would do SEO also because, as you grow in marketing, you learn a lot of these things. I would do website development also. So those are not really my forte. My forte is really content, thought leadership. So to realize what is my forte also, it took that kind of step-by-step process.
And that's a fantastic answer. I mean, I used to work for a business called Communications Management, which was a PR business. And the one thing that they were superb at doing for their clients was communications management. But the one thing they were terrible at doing for themselves was communications management. Every business, I think there is a law that it doesn't mean that you're not brilliant at working with your clients, but sometimes people look to their clients and almost like neglect themselves in terms of what they're doing. And I know certainly in my content that I've produced for my own business, I work with somebody who said, I'm not sure you've got that quite right, Trevor, and she's absolutely right. So because I'm so focused on the clients sometimes that you just have to make sure that you're being congruent with what you're doing. So thank you for that answer. I mean, are there any other sort of lessons that you've learned along the way? I mean, if you don't mind me asking, are you particularly bad at something? In my case, it's accounting. But is there something for you that you think, I wish I was better at that?
Oh, yeah. I definitely wish that I could do a better PR of my own self, right? I am so bad at promoting my own work. I always advise the clients to, hey, put together a case study. Hey, get a testimonial immediately. I've done this always. Always I have done that for even being in corporate as well as, because in corporate, obviously it comes naturally because you are looking for that content. But when I work with clients who are small and medium businesses, they don't have a very extensive marketing team. They probably have only a one-person team. And then I'm the one telling them, get the testimonial, get the feedback, let's run a survey, let's put together a case study. And then that becomes a content eventually. And because it's also a healthy PR that you can do on your own social media and assets. And this is one thing I'm so terrible at doing. I may have done like 50, 60 projects during the time that I was here before I opened the shop, like opened this branded outfit. And I never bothered to, put together the case studies. So that is one thing I'm really bad at. And accounting, yes, all us creative people are very bad at accounting. But I use softwares now. I've gotten a little bit hang. And also in my situation, Trevor, I think I was like literally pushed into doing this because the company, as I said, is in Singapore. I'm located here in UAE. So there was a lot to kind of understand legally and understand how does the kind of the payment and everything flows. So now things are much better. But when I moved here before, like 5 years ago, things were very different. So I had to like really figure it out upfront.
I mean, I want to, if you're not going to blow your own trumpet, I'm going to do it for you here because I think you're pretty good actually, from what I can see in terms of the marketing. And I came across you in terms of your own podcast, The Making of a Thought Leader, which I was lucky enough to be a guest on. I mean, can you tell listeners a bit more about it? And why did you pick that subject? Was it because it was related to that world of content? I mean, why thought leadership? Why did you go to that? And what are you trying to do with that podcast?
Sure. I think this is, it just flows so nicely with what conversation we were having, right? So there was this day when I had helped somebody else do their podcast, and we were meeting after, I think, 6 months as a kind of a catch up, like, okay, where you are at the podcast, because when I helped that person launch, and this is like a business owner that was launching the podcast. So my ask for him was that, look, let's launch this in 6 months. We will review and we will see where it is, because, usually business owners are very busy. They don't want to spend time on writing content or doing anything marketing. So I wanted to really, and for this person, I really wanted him to talk about his business because it was really, it was very interesting. And I know that what he was doing could help many others. So on that note, we set him up on the podcast. So the first 6 months, the content strategy and everything we developed, and he was going by the book in terms of doing everything. So I meet him at this review meeting, and he was very happy doing it, because then finally he had kind of figured out the whole system, because there's lots to figure out in podcasts, like the equipment part of it, the location part of it. We were just talking about it earlier, like the sounds and all of that, to get a great quality podcast, right? And then he said, wait a minute, Surbhi, you are so good at this. Why don't you do your podcast? And I'm like, oh, it kind of again hit me, right? Like, as I said, I'm never good at doing my own PR. And then I was like, I don't know. I mean, I can always do a podcast, but I have to literally put like things together in terms of what will the audience be interested in to listen, because, marketing as such can be so general. And then I wanted to add value. So he's like, look, you encouraged me so much to do my own podcast, to come out and build my own thought leadership. And I think I know a lot others can benefit from it. And that's what set the ball rolling, literally. And this was in March 2021. Not even March, I think April 2021, that we were having this discussion. And by July 2021, I had the podcast up and running. So literally, because I just had to take all those documents that I had prepared for him, the templates, like, how do you plan your content? What do you do? What equipments do you need? How do you kind of promote it? And, so that part was really easy. But the day came when I had to sit and record the first few opening episodes, the trailers and all. It was really hard, because I have never been on this seat where, you are facing a microphone and talking into an oblivion. So I was fumbling. I knew what I had to say, but I was majorly fumbling. I had to take so many takes to get the first things right. And then I realized, oh, this is like another curve to, scale and learn from. So it was really nice. And that's how the podcast came about. I think the initial feedback that I got was great because that kept me, that kind of gave me a check that, okay, this is what people want to hear. So the podcast is called The Making of a Thought Leader. And the reason why it is called The Making of a Thought Leader is because people cannot become thought leader on their own. They can't just add the title to their profile saying I'm a thought leader, because you've got to be made, right? Like you go continuously, you kind of grow into that thought leadership space. And the reason I think the objective or the main ethos was that, look, I want to encourage entrepreneurs like the one that I encouraged already to get up there and talk, not do podcasts, but do anything that can help build their own thought leadership. Because in fact, even in my job, day-to-day business, I meet so many entrepreneurs who have so many stories to say, right? Like there are so many unique things about them which they can use to their own leverage. So they can be the door openers for their business, which can be like the stories that they experience while building a business, the employees that help them grow, or the resources they refer to, and that can help build them as well as their community within that niche. So, I worked with, for example, I worked with this entrepreneur who takes care of the air quality in closed spaces. Now, that is such a niche space. And while I was talking to him, I learned so many things about what goes behind like these large hotels or large spaces, and how do they manage the air quality using what kind of technology and the filtration and all of that. And now that can get very technical when you go to an engineering level understanding, but when you have to say it in a story format, it can be so exciting, right? Like it could be any brand, and this small business actually works with one of the biggest 5-star hotel chains here, and he has so many stories to say, right? Like when things go wrong, or what is the backdrop of like building this entire, it's quite extensive. They have to look at the maps of the construction, they have to work with construction people. So there's just so many different factors that they work with, and that was interesting. And I feel like through my podcast, I want to encourage people like them to take a systematic and a constructive approach to build their thought leadership.
You've hit on an absolute passion of mine as well, because I look at solo entrepreneurs, executive coaches, knowledge experts, individuals essentially, who all have so much to share and so much to give, and they're constant overwork, with a few exceptions, but the vast majority really underestimate the value of their knowledge and expertise. And so what I'm doing this autumn is trying to launch a series of coaching courses around getting that content out of them, and about how they do that and the techniques they use, because they all say things like, don't have enough time, or I haven't got the confidence to do it, or I tried it before, I wrote something but nobody seemed to be listening. And they'll do things to sort of knock down some of those myths. But I totally subscribe to what you're saying, because I find it a bit frustrating when I'm talking to people and I'm thinking, God, you know so much. And why don't you talk about this more often? And it's just something that has kind of almost, I think we share that sort of interest in helping, in your case, the making of the thought leader become a thought leader. It's a fascinating thing. What are you up to now? Do you have any sort of new innovations and things coming up in the pipeline, that anything you're particularly excited about that you want to tell us?
Yeah, sure. So as I said, Making of a Thought Leader just finished a 1-year mark. And, I did some reflection over it. And I thought that, okay, let me look at what is working, what is not working. Always, marketers always use this check and balance. Like, I want to know what I'm providing. Is it helping people? And a lot of effort goes in producing a podcast episode. I mean, you can definitely understand that, right? Like there are so many moving parts to it. And so I want to, kind of build something that is extra, and I can, build my own community around it. Because what is happening is, while social media and website and all of that has a good communication tool to like a two-way communication, what happens with podcasts, it is a one-way. So I want to have like this circle coming back, build a community. So that's what I'm working on, which is very exciting. And the other thing that I mentioned earlier, that I've also have built this productized service, which is called jotmybio.com. And now this came around COVID. Actually, it's a COVID baby. What happened during that time, a lot of my business colleagues, contacts, they were leaving corporate jobs and now like either made redundant or looking for something new, the great resignation, right? Like the effects of great resignation. So they were looking at, they had LinkedIn and other social media bios and stuff, but that was not working for them. And I helped few people market and position themselves. Like I wore a marketeer's hat and wrote something for them, which kind of helped them prove themselves in that particular niche. And let's agree to the fact that everybody looks you up before you meet them. So you want to have the right perception on them. So that's where Jot My Bio came about. And this is a productized service, which is like not a resume building service, like not a sequential thing that after this I did this and this and this, but it's really to position yourself correct as that persona who the person is wanting to meet, right? Like and then the conversation also shifts really. So they are not asking you many questions about what you did really, but then what you can offer them. So that is the difference that Jot My Bio is making. And it is a productized service, as I was saying. So it's kind of automated. And then I add that personal touch by interviewing that person, because what I am really listening for in that call is the words, the personality that the person has. And that has to be written that way. It cannot be like, it is very tailored to that person through like the tone, the kind of choice of words the person uses, everything which is catered to that individual rather than a mass approach. So yeah, that's what these are the two things that I'm very, very excited about.
That's fantastic. I particularly agree with you on the tone of voice thing. I'm constantly talking to people and I'm half listening to what they're saying, but then you can record things as well to if your memory sort of fails you, but it's also the way in which they're saying it as well, and the way they're stylistic and their phrasing and how they would put things. So I sort of heartily agree on that. So if people want to find out more about you on that particular venture or generally, I mean, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, people can get in touch with me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active. If you look up Surbhi Dedhia, my full name, SURBHI DEDHIA. I'm on LinkedIn, so look me up and connect with me. I really enjoy connecting with people from all over, and also share on a friendly basis if there is anything that people are, because I think what COVID has done is like opened this entire global conversation, isn't it? So I'm up for it. So Surbhi Dedhia on LinkedIn, and I'm also with the same handle on Twitter. So both the places I'm pretty active on. And then my website is Digital Genie. .co. So it is digital and GENIE.co. So check that out. And jotmybio.com is a straightforward JOTMYBIO.com.
Brilliant. Plenty of ways to get hold of you. In the meantime, Surbhi, thank you for being such a fantastic guest.
Thank you. I hope I could add value to your listeners. And, there's always this excitement in talking with you, Trevor, because there are just so many different levels of frequency that match for both of us. So thank you for having me on the show. Absolutely my pleasure.
Well, in that interview, most of all, what I love is Surbhi's modesty. I mean, she's so honest about the changes she's had to make. But if you go and look at her LinkedIn profile, you'll be bowled over by how much she's achieved, particularly with so much change going on around her in the last few years. To me, it's all about being able to rise to new challenges and new sets of circumstances. That's what sets her apart in my eyes. Well, thank you for tuning in. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, we'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and review through your usual podcast provider. And if you want to find out more about the Merri-Cast or about our business Merriborn Media, you can find us on LinkedIn or email me at trevor.meriden@merribornmedia.co.uk. Don't forget to join us for our next episode. And until then, thanks for listening.